I'll be delighted to sit down.
Was it exhausting?
Well, not really. I've actually got a sore arm from, I was playing tag with my children and I fractured my collarbone about 6 weeks ago. So it's very hard to do this.
Oh my
And it's
goodness.
actually hard to push the flute, to keep it. But it's okay. I think it's working all right. It's just a bit painful, but
Do you forget about the pain when you're actually doing the performance?
yeah. The trouble is sometimes you forget about it, then you suddenly have a big swing and you're, ow!
Tell me something, what is it like to conduct and play the flute at the same time? That must be very difficult.
Well, I don't think it really is. I think I enjoy doing it. It's something I've wanted to do for a long time, especially with this particular orchestra. Because I know them over a long time, and I've played here many times.
Tell me, is it hard, though, to give the orchestra cues when you don't have any hands to give them cues with?
No, you see, these orchestras, you don't need cues in Mozart. I mean, you don't need to tell a horn player when to play when he's been sitting there for 20 years playing the same piece. I mean, it's only when you have a complicated piece like a Mahler symphony where you have to really know all the parts and direct everybody because the musicians are not familiar with the music. But with this sort of music, we get a couple of rehearsals and we get to know it. And I think it goes very well.
But how do you tell them about the dynamics if you're not really able to use your hands?
Well, you tell them in a rehearsal, you see.
Oh, very smart. I'm sure that every music festival in the United States and in Europe as well would love to have you come and be a part of the festival. And we feel particularly lucky that you actually chose us. Why did you choose the Mostly Mozart Festival?
Well, New York was the second place, and the Mostly Mozart program was the second place I played in the United States when I first made my debut here as a soloist. So I sort of got to know everybody who runs it. I got to know everybody in the orchestra. I know the musical director very well, we're all very good friends, and it's like coming home,
Oh, that's lovely.
It's really nice.
Yeah. Tell me something. You use a gold flute. Why gold?
Well, gold is actually harder than silver, and all the keys on my flute are handmade, and they don't go out of adjustment so quickly like a silver flute where the metal is very soft.
Oh, how many gold flutes do you have?
6.
Really?
Yeah.
I heard a rumor that there's a diamond on the end of the one you used tonight. Is that true?
Mm-hmm.
How much does a flute like that cost?
I really don't know, to tell you the truth, because I bought the gold when I was working in the Berlin Philharmonic.
Uh-huh.
And it sounds like a spy story. I bought it in Berlin in 1972, and I gave it to Mr. Cooper, who makes about one flute every 5 years. So in 1977, he decided he'd make my flute.
I see. And where did the diamond come from?
Well, I have a friend in London who's a jeweler, and she actually set the diamond in the end.
It's been said that the flute repertoire is really very, very limited, and yet you're a superstar, and you've made a superstar career playing the flute. How have you dealt with that problem?
Well, it would take actually much longer to explain than we've got, but I really don't feel like a superstar. I have the same trouble like everybody else. The buttons fall off my shirt too, and I have to sew them on. And you get to hotels and your room's not ready, so you go and take lunch instead or whatever. It's always. I don't feel like a superstar.
By me, you're a superstar, and by everybody who heard tonight's concert, I'm sure. But what do you do, Jimmy, when you don't have really the repertoire for the flute that you need? Where do you go to other areas to find what you're looking for?
Well, mainly to the violin. And we're beginning to discover now that there's been a lot of things arranged, for example, in Mozart's time. The Mozart Clarinet Concerto was actually arranged for flute in G major by the same guy who arranged it for clarinet.
Really?
Yes, and you can get the score from the East German Bibliothek.
Oh, how marvelous.
And things like this, we're beginning to discover that there's lots of things we can play. And I just go and borrow the odd piece here, like the Four Seasons,
Which is coming up right after the intermission.
Yeah.
I understand that you've commissioned John Corigliano to write a piece for you, and I understand that Elton John has written a piece for you. That's really opposite ends of the pole, isn't it?
Yes, it is. The piece by John Corigliano is a fantasy on the Pied Piper, and it is a fantastic piece. I think it's one of the best flute concertos probably of this century.
How wonderful.
It really is amazing, and it has instant success with the public. You can imagine. You take all the children away from under the noses of the mothers, and they all weep, and then you bring them all back on at the end. They got to clap. But the tune by Elton John is beautiful. It's a really beautiful melody.
What a wonderful thing to do.
I wish he would write a whole concerto.
You know, I heard that in 1977 you had a very severe accident and you were in traction, unable to move for 3 months. That must have been an incredible experience for you, and my thought is that it must have changed your attitude about performing and about music. What impact did it have on you?
Well, you know, when you do a concert every day and you go from one hotel to the next hotel and you get sort of slightly fed up with the whole thing. But actually, with me, I'm not like this, but a lot of musicians are. But I actually got starved. I really wanted to stand in front of the public and play, and I couldn't. But when I did, it was the most amazing effect, you know. I mean, all these months I wanted to play, and when I did, it was incredible. The people were screaming like mad, like they'd heard a pop concert or something, because all this emotion inside you just came out in one big blast.
Do you still feel now that same kind of inspiration before your concerts?
Yes. Yes, sometimes, you know, in big cities like this where there's always a big hoo-ha, you know, with a TV and all that stuff, it's very it's very difficult to sort of get some sort of calm of mind, you know, but you get used to it and you get used to shutting yourself in your own little box.
Yeah.
And just doing it.
We feel so pleased that you're in America for a while, and I understand that you're giving some master classes this summer.
That's
Can you
right.
tell me about them a little?
Yes, I can. You know, all the kids in America are always asking me to teach them the flute. Well, I don't teach the flute because I think teaching is a thing which should be done with regular monotony every week. And I can't do that. So I think the best thing I can do is take 3 days out of my life each year and just tell the kids my philosophy on teaching and on playing the flute. And that's what I'm going to do in Seattle this coming August. And the class will be free for anybody who wants to come.
How marvelous. Have you done this other places before?
No, it's the first time we had the idea to do this.
Oh, what a marvelous, marvelous thing. Golly, I bet everybody wants to know how to join and how to be in on it. I'll bet a singer can learn from it too.
Well, singers are welcome. We could do with a few songs before the break, you know.
Do you get much of a chance to be home with your family with all this traveling?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I spent so much time with the kids, I tell you. Patrick was even offering to break my other arm so I could stay another month.
Oh, that's wonderful. Listen, you probably are tired and you want to rest a little before the performance. But I have one last question I want to ask you. Is it flutist or flautist?
Well, in the English language, as they speak it in England, it's flautist. And here, I think they say flutist. But I think flute player's okay too. I really don't mind.
Thank you, and thank you for such a beautiful evening.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
We'll be back for the second half of tonight's program after a short pause.